Defeated generals accept America's terms for ending the Gulf War.
From ABC News, World News Sunday, here's Carol Simpson.
Now the Persian Gulf. The beginning of the formal Persian Gulf peace came today in a tent in the Iraqi desert. Iraq's defeated generals sat down with members of the Allied command and agreed to America's terms for ending the war. ABC's Sheila McVicker was there.
The Iraqi generals arrived at the meeting in American vehicles, escorted by American tanks, with Apache helicopters hovering overhead, coming face to face with the force that routed the Iraqi army. It was a scene set by the commander of Desert Storm, General Norman Schwarzkopf. But even in victory, General Schwarzkopf didn't want to deny the Iraqis their dignity.
Now, I don't want them embarrassed in any way, right? No, sir. Okay, I don't want them humiliated.
So the Iraqi generals, already disarmed, were taken into a tent to be searched again, out of range of the cameras. And in a 2-hour meeting that one coalition commander described as cold but determined, the Iraqi generals did agree to all Allied demands. They included the immediate release of prisoners of war and of Kuwaiti civilians held by the Iraqis, information about those missing in action, and the location of minefields in Kuwait and in international waters. At the end, the Iraqi generals saluted the man who had planned their defeat. There were no documents signed. On a handshake, the Iraqis agreed to begin to work towards peace. Most important for the Allies was the agreement on prisoners of war.
We have also asked that as a token of good faith on both sides, that we have a symbolic release immediately.
General Schwarzkopf said this was not the formal end to the war, but the beginning of a process that will lead to a truce. The Allied commanders say they believe the Iraqis they met with today can deliver on the ceasefire conditions they discussed. But just in case something goes wrong, the Allied commanders also warn that they are prepared to resume fighting anytime. Sheila McVicker, ABC News, in the Safwan airfield in Allied-occupied Iraq.
And what of Iraqi President Saddam Hussein? Today, Iraqi television released these pictures, reportedly shot Saturday, which show Saddam meeting with his aides. They were supposedly talking about the restoration of electricity and other public services throughout the country. The Palestine Liberation Organization, which supported Saddam Hussein in the war, is calling on Arab states to take immediate measures to protect Palestinians in Kuwait. ABC's Jim Hickey, who is in Kuwait City, reports that the situation there is one of lawlessness and bedlam, and ethnic groups like the Palestinians are very much at risk.
There was rough treatment today as Kuwaitis continued their roundup of suspected Iraqi collaborators. Kuwaiti anger over what has happened to them seems to be spreading. Palestinians and Kurds in this ethnic neighborhood are worried Kuwaiti vengeance may spiral out of control. Najid Ridha has lived in Kuwait for 40 years, but because he comes from Kurdistan, which is in Iraq, Ridha fears reprisals from the Kuwaiti resistance against his family.
I'm afraid maybe they attack us. No government now. Almost all this people are Malaysian.
The irony is that Rihad, with his ID card identifying his Iraqi birthplace, doesn't blame the Kuwaitis for their anger.
Because they have reason, sir. They have reason.
This is one of the reasons. Reportedly, 3,000 victims of Iraqi aggression are buried in this cemetery. Kuwaitis are taking it out on those they believe helped Iraq, like Palestinians.
They should get out of Kuwait. We don't need them. What the for?
The PLO did support Iraq in the Gulf War. Palestinians here say they are caught because of that.
Not all of the Palestinians they were supporting Saddam.
There is no formal law and order here yet, and it is that lack of control that international relief workers are worried about. Jim Hickey, ABC News, Kuwait.
And there were more indications today of lawlessness and chaos, perhaps even an anti-Saddam rebellion in Iraq's second biggest city, Basra. Those indications come from kidnapped Kuwaitis who are now free and on their way home. More from ABC's Mike Lee.
American troops now control Iraq's southernmost border post leading to Kuwait. Customs inspection stations, temples of authority, are destroyed. Down the road behind me is the Iraqi city of Basra, where thousands of kidnapped civilians from Kuwait were put into prison. Now that the war is over, the story of what happened inside Basra is beginning to come to light. In small groups, they are walking out of Iraq toward Kuwait. It is a grueling trip. They tell of being abducted at random in Kuwait for not having Iraqi ID papers, of crowded prison conditions, and of very little food to eat.
Very hungry. Yesterday, American people give food very good. Yesterday, now no hungry.
Amid this exodus are eyewitness accounts of Iraqi public anger toward Saddam. These foreign workers say that in Basra, they were rescued from prison by armed and angry anti-Saddam crowds.
They break the locks and they said, everybody go out, you are free today. We are against the Saddam. And they're starting to curse Saddam. And he said, the Saddam is finished.
Along the road, there are acts of compassion. A Kuwaiti family buries an Iraqi soldier. At night, when Iraq's vandalism is most visible, a U.S. Army driver helps some women who only want to return to their jobs as housemaids. Mike Lee, ABC News, Kuwait.
Coming up, Sudafed 12-hour capsules are being recalled nationwide amid evidence of fatal drug tampering. And later in this broadcast, 2 more Baltic republics defy the Kremlin by voting today on independence. And